Let me start with a very tough question here. How many times do progressives, environmentalists, eco-nut jobs have to be proven wrong? Let me ask this question as California burns yet again. Why is it burning? Does it have anything to do with, not having controlled burns? Does it have anything to do with controlled burns of underbrush? Does it have anything to do with that? Or is this the way it's supposed to be every year? How many millions of dollars does California spend? How many millions of dollars does California lose because of environmental nut jobs because they're wrong? How many times do progressives and environmentalists have to be wrong before we say, shut up? Today, I'm so glad that I almost called him a green jobs czar again, and I know that upsets the White House, so we'll just instead... Ho, ho, ho.
Special advisor for green jobs at the White House Council on Environmental Quality.
And we're not making fun of that at all. We are taking it deadly serious. He brought up Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring. Indeed, as Van points out, she talked about toxics and the environment, and that did open up a whole new wave. One of the things that book, Silent Spring, one of the things that it did was make a villain out of the pesticide DDT. DDT has been amazingly effective at killing mosquitoes, fleas, lice that spread things like malaria, yellow fever, sleeping sickness, plague, encephalitis, West Nile virus, other diseases. So much that before the discovery of DDT in World War I, typhus killed more servicemen than bullets. After DDT in World War II, typhus wasn't a problem at all. By the 1960s, DDT had all but eradicated malaria. Didn't Al Gore talk about being able to wipe out malaria and how bad global warming would be because of the spread of malaria? Well, then came Rachel Carson's Silent Spring book, which kicked off a firestorm over the safety of DDT. And by 1970, Joni Mitchell included the controversy in the lyrics of her song, and I love it, don't you, Big Yellow Taxi.
Hey, farmer, put away the DDT.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Give me spots on my apples, or leave me the birds and the bees.
Oh, yeah, Joni, sing it. Spots on the apples. Wouldn't that be bad? Wouldn't it be great if spots on the apples had turned out to be the nastiest effect of banning DDT? It didn't. The U.S. banned DDT in 1972. The Stockholm Convention later made the ban worldwide on agricultural use. The National Academy of Science credits DDT with having prevented 500 million deaths worldwide in 2 decades. 500 million deaths. Think of that number. Think how many people lived by 1972 because of DDT. Now, tragically, up to 2.7 million people in Africa alone die every year. 90% of those children are under 5. Some spots on the apples, huh? What was happening in 1972? DDT saved 500 million lives. What was the current thinking in 1972? By the way, any harmful link to humans from DDT has never been found. Bruce N. Ames, a world-renowned biochemist and professor of molecular biology, and Thomas A. Jukes, professor of biophysics and a foremost expert on DDT from the University of California at Berkeley. Yes, that right-wing kook tank, UC Berkeley. These two men said the attack on DDT, this, quoting, is nonsense, end quote. Waylon Hayes, U.S. Public Health Service science for 18 months, fed to human volunteers daily, 3 times the quantity of DDT that the average American was ingesting annually. Daily, 3 times the amount that you would get if you ate it in a year. None experienced any adverse effect. That's 6 to 10 years later. Now, I'm not saying, I want you to understand that I want to use DDT for a topping for ice cream, but shouldn't we be killing mosquitoes with it? The answer is yes. The progressive nutballs had it wrong, as usual. And in this case, it's costing lives, millions of lives, in Africa alone. Now, the last thing that you would ever want to do is connect any dots with the progressive movement, because then it just goes crazy. Around this same time, 1972, what else was going on? Oh, I remember the population bomb. In the early to mid-70s, the new science advisor, the one advising Barack Obama right now, John Holdren, was writing a book called Ecoscience, in which he discussed population control possibilities. He wrote, quote, a program of sterilizing women after their second or third child, despite the relatively greater difficulty of the operation than vasectomy, might be easier to implement than trying to sterilize men. He also wrote, quote, indeed, it has been concluded that compulsory population laws may include laws requiring abortion, and it could be sustained under the existing Constitution if the population crisis became sufficiently severe to endanger the society. The population crisis. There's more. We could spend an hour with his quotes, each more shocking than the last. But we have to move on to our regulatory czar, Cass Sunstein, who didn't want to control pet populations. Instead, he would like pets and animals, including rats, to be able to engage an attorney. Quote, animals should be permitted to bring suit with human beings as their representatives to prevent violations of current law. He went on to talk about if rats could feel pain, then you have no right to remove them from your house. Let me ask you, if somebody says you can't remove a rat from your house, or your rat or your dog should have an attorney, or somebody during the population crisis was writing about sterilization and forced abortions, is it that much of a stretch to believe that those people who put animals and earth over humans wouldn't think it was a problem to allow disease to run its course to reduce the threatening population? Is it possible that they didn't have it right? They knew all along? Remember, John Holdren said the problem with sterilants in drinking water was getting the public to go along with the plan. Disease, however, or banning DDT doesn't require you to take a stand against humans. You're taking a stand for the earth.